Mexico City. It's a beautiful city. No, and it's the biggest city in Latin America, and it has a very specific type of challenge. The question here is how to renew the city center, and that is exemplary for many Latin American cities. So that's why we're here. The Urban Labs program was invited here in Mexico to work on a specific project, one neighborhood, Doctores, which is located right between the old historic center and the dynamic area outside. This area is part of the early 20th century ring that was built around the city center and that is now more of a buffer zone than a bridge. The area where we work, which is called Doctores, is an area that's in the city center, but it has a bad name. There was a lot of crime, and so it is very difficult to get the first sparkle of investment going. And that means most of the middle class people start to live far away from the city center. So you get a kind of a donut, a hollowed out city. So we need to bring that back to just some human aspects of the city. It should not be too difficult, actually.
It's a huge city, it's a global metropole, and it's been a laboratory and playground for architects and urban planners for centuries. The private sector is looking eagerly for modern, viable models that they can start investing on.
Mexico City, it's a very strong place, has a lot of input now, but there are a lot of social difference.
I'm always interested also in my practice in the mechanisms. So what kind of rules, what kind of, how do we involve the people, co-creation. And I think all these aspects are in this project. We want to identify, but with earning money, we want to invest in keeping social mix, but also make the neighborhood more sustainable.
Mexico City is built on a former lake. It's in a valley. And because of that, there is big problems with the water system in the city. The drainage, it's very difficult to get the water out of the city because there's a lot of paving, not so much green. There's a lot of floods in the streets.
The first time we were in Mexico City, we had a visit in Doctores. We had a few conversations with different departments from CEDUVI, the planning department of the city. There was no previous work relation between the United Nations, Mexico and the urban planning department here at CEDUVI. We have been getting in this 1.5 day such a wealth of knowledge and ideas that they already have for the area. I'm very impressed by the detail and the understanding and the quality of the people that are working in CEDUVI.
We arrived here expecting that we would get a huge amount of information, but we didn't get so many details. So when we were back in Holland, we were still hungry to get more specific information.
The first things we did was we started sketching. We took our sketch paper from the Netherlands and we started sketching and we put it all on the wall.
This Dutch way of getting these different disciplines together and sketching together in a workshop kind of way, that is really something that they find really interesting in Mexico City.
The design team came here for the first time in May 2016 and since then has been working on plans leading to the first presentation that is today. The first mission was not so easy because they needed to gain trust, but after the first mission where they showed all their designs there was a lot of enthusiasm within CEDUVI.
received it in a good way, that they see the potential of work like this. Got a lot of inspiration or ideas concerning their work. The next step is to have all the meetings with the experts and to get more information, and then we have to generate all this information into more concrete action.
Doctores is not very easy to understand. It's a complex area that looks quite nice in some parts, but quite grim in others, and surely it looks different at night. You always want to get that feel of a city, to talk to the people and to see it for yourself, to understand what you have to design and change.
Those kinds of developments will raise the prices and will make the gap bigger.
On the other hand, it's a very positive development, because you see that there's more housing added, more commerce, there's a development in the plinth. How will you make it? How will you make the development of the neighborhood in such a way that this doesn't make it possible for lower incomes to also be here?
The problem is that a lot of people who do live here, they do not take part in this economy, because it's people come from outside to work here, and then in the evening they go home. They're probably not so interested to improve the area, and but the people who are living here, they would desire different things.
One of the things we've been thinking about to get this mix between commercial activities, housing, good public space, to get a activity in the city during the whole day.
This is also quite nice to keep these kind of buildings, so you should also not throw away the total identity of the neighborhood. That's also what said, the mix of this kind of 1-2 layers, a little bit older buildings. Okay, this is social housing. That's really nice. Could be nice about the area, this sort of different heights, not one concept, one plan with, this is it.
Maybe many times we in Mexico are so focused on our trouble here, on our problems. So I think it's very fresh view. People from Holland. Holland has a great tradition and great history of urbanization.
Certain areas are just staying. So we said this street can do that, this street can do that, and already there's a zoning plan. But then later we thought it's maybe a little bit too rigid.
Meetings, collaboration work really in two ways. It is learning what is going on and what is possible, but also sharing ideas, testing if the points of departure are valid, where the plans need to be adjusted, and a real exchange of design principles, ideas, in order to understand what works and what doesn't. The narrative on saying we are going to make this fabric of 6 to 8 layers in which people still have some connection. There were many meetings this time with all kinds of stakeholders. The investment banker, the NGOs that are working in Doctores, the innovative real estate developer, and of course the people that live and work in Doctores.
They are critical. They talk, we have intense discussions, and that's what I very much like. The people are quite a bit present in the workshop.
So we are also looking for some very concrete strategic projects in which we can start with this densification, the social processes, but also the design of the public space. So some first starts and tests on the location in Doctores.
All my family, my grandfather and my grandmother live here. my parents. Now I live here and my son and my daughter live here, so it's the fourth generation. This is a popular neighborhood, but it has a lot of faces. In the health of the community, in the relations of the community, you can see a lot of drug addiction, drug selling and delinquency. These kind of neighborhoods needs to be asked and to get into this dialogue so they can feel part of their own neighborhood. Try to have the best kind of communication and make them part of all the plan. The transformation is not in the streets or in the buildings. I don't think there is a transformation. The transformation is in the person, in the people.
Armed with all this information, the design team made changes to their initial plans and they had the chance to present it again. All the heads of the departments of the municipality of Mecixo City are present, and if they embrace the plans, it is possible to go on, to develop the plans further, and most of all to develop plans for funding and implementation. What we decided now with the head of the department in Sedubi is to make a handbook, an advice to Sedubi how to approach doctors in general and more detailed plans for 3 pilot projects in the area. Once that is done, this phase of the project is finished, and it would be wonderful if this design team can remain involved in the developments afterwards.
Because it's the UN, that gives optimism, because they know they can pull on the UN, they know that they can use the UN to push boundaries a little bit further than they can by themselves.
Which is very important, that discussion. But the most important thing right now for us in Mecixo City is put it on the ground.
Very good comments, I think, and yeah, it would be nice to stay here longer, to start working with the different departments.
And hopefully we can get energy, time, money for the Urban Lab 2.0 and really start help them to work on this pilot project.
I'm really optimistic about the future of this program and this project. Wow.